Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule. The Honorable Paul Hellyer from Canada has extensively studied extraterrestrials, or ETs. How many kinds of ETs exist in our galaxy?
Probably in the whole galaxy or the whole cosmos, there are thousands. But most of them haven't got the capacity to come here yet, just as we didn't have the capacity to go there. They're limited by their technology. Eventually, perhaps they will have the technology to come in far greater numbers, as we will have or are soon having the technology to visit more planets and so on outside of our own planet.
Extraterrestrials are real. Interview with the Honorable Paul Hellyer, Part 1 of 2. Watch on to find out more. Greetings, warm-hearted viewers. I am Tung from vibrant Los Angeles, USA. People in my country are grateful for every loving action you do that benefits our Mother Earth. May God bless you. Welcome to part 1 of our 2-part series, Extraterrestrials Are Real. Interview with the Honorable Paul Hellyer. On today's program, we'll hear from the Honorable Paul Hellyer, a Canadian politician, aeronautical engineer, and internationally renowned unidentified flying object or UFO expert. Mr. Hellyer is the former Minister of Transportation and former Minister of National Defence for Canada and is currently a member of the Canadian Privy Council. Mr. Hellyer has conducted extensive research on extraterrestrials, or ETs, and unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. He has spoken widely about aliens, with his talks being viewed millions of times on YouTube. He is one of the first high-ranking officials to state, unequivocally, that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over your head. On 2 separate occasions, Mr. Hellyer personally witnessed a UFO.
3 or 4 years ago, my wife and I were at our place in the North Country, about 120 miles north of Toronto. And it's sort of a UFO belt. There's been a lot of UFO sightings up there. We were up there for Thanksgiving, and my wife said, "I'm going out to look at the stars." And for some reason, I put on my cap and followed her out, which was most unusual for me. She said, "Oh, there's a bright sky and a bright star in the eastern sky." No, the western sky it was. And I did a quick glance and I said, "Oh, there's a far brighter one in the eastern sky." And she turned around and we both were transfixed because this star, unlike other stars, was moving 3 or 4 degrees across the sky in 3 or 4 seconds. And I knew enough about aeronautics from my earlier years to know that stars don't do that. And then when I got back to Toronto, I checked out, could it be a satellite? No, nothing. Space station? No. No explanation except the real one, which was, it was a spaceship, and it was moving so fast and doing funny things, you know, going across the sky and down and back and dipping up and putting on a show for us. So 2 nights later, I went out and sat on the dock in a proper chair so I could back, and the UFO came back and did another show for me. So I watched for about 20 minutes. And I've seen them, and I know what they look like. Well, they have different sizes and types of coming from various places. But I know their characteristics, and I knew that we didn't have anything that could do what they were doing. And so I was pleased to be able to put in my book that you know, I'd seen UFOs in action.
In 1977, Steven Spielberg's movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, told the fascinating story of aliens visiting Earth. When a massive UFO lands on Earth, a group of American volunteers enter the ship to travel with them to their distant planet. Although the movie is fictional, Mr. Hellyer says that a similar incident actually occurred.
There's only one that I know of, and that is the expedition to Serpo. And this again was in the mid-60s. The United States had had connections with the people, the Ebens as they call them, from Serpo in the Reta Reticuli constellation. So they suggested an exchange of people after they had got to know each other a little bit. And so one Eben was left in the United States, and 12 American astronauts took off, first in a scout plane and then later in a mothership, to go to the home planet of these visitors, which was the planet Serpo. They had a very rough ride at the beginning in space until they got to what was known as a wormhole. And after that, it was a nice flight. Imagine they went across what we consider 38 light years of distance in about 11 months. And this is what most people say is impossible. So nothing travels faster than the speed of light. Well, maybe it doesn't, but they got there in 11 months, and the light would have taken 38 years to get there. So something is missing in your calculations as to how the universe actually exists. Well, they spent several years there and reported back to the United States on what they learned. 3 decided to stay there when the contingent came back to the United States, and 5 of them came back and reported, and they had a documentation, thousands of pages of reports as to what went on. And this was, I think, really the sort of consolidation of the close association between the visitors from that planet and the United States government and armed forces. And even before the contingent got back, the Eben sent a scout vehicle that they made available to the United States Armed Forces to learn how to back engineer it and how it worked and all of that sort of thing.
Mr. Hellyer says that for many years, extraterrestrials have been assisting governments on Earth. Their main objective is to help us to advance technologically.
They had been working together on a small scale for a long time, and there had always been at least one working with the United States government or being close to the United States government from the time of the crash in Roswell in July 1947. There's always been at least one since. Of course, there are many more that started working in the very top secret areas of 51 and S4 and so on in Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, that area. Many working with them for years and years, developing the technical ability to build the ships and then finally to get them to fly in space safely. So they've been working together for a long, long while.
We'll now take a moment to step outside to gaze at the stars and look for UFOs, while we thank the divine for the many wonders in our universe. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our program. Extraterrestrials Are Real. Interview with the Honorable Paul Hellyer, Part 1 of 2. Mr. Hellyer tells us that in addition to the Ebens, other extraterrestrials have visited Earth.
There have been others. The tall whites, as they're known, have been working with the United States Air Force for a long time, and they've been living in the area in Nevada. Several books have been written about them. They have been exchanging technology with the United States Air Force. And then, of course, the Venusians made contact at least a couple of times, including one early on, a valiant Thor, who worked in the Pentagon for, we're told, 4 years, and who helped the American forces, and who offered us, humankind, a real deal. Said, if you will give up your atomic weapons, we will give you all of the technology for you to have the good life in agriculture, in medicine, and all of these other things.
We asked Mr. Hellyer how many kinds of ETs exist in our galaxy and what they look like.
They're all different. Most of the ones from our galaxy, I am told, look very much like us. Consequently, they're the ones that could be walking down the street and you wouldn't know who they were. You'd walk right past them. You might even say good morning to them or something like that, without knowing that they didn't come from anywhere in the world. England, unless they spoke, and of course you'd know the accent. As far as I know, and this valiant Thor was a handsome man, for example, and he could pass for, anyone. Then you have the Greys, who are the principal group that have been working with the United States. And they're very short, and they're very thin. They have long, skinny arms and legs. They have huge heads and huge eyes. So they're different, but there have to be far more than that. Probably in the whole galaxy or the whole cosmos, there are thousands. But most of them haven't got the capacity to come here yet, just as we didn't have the capacity to go there. They're limited by their technology. Eventually, perhaps they will have the technology to come in far greater numbers, as we will have or are soon having the technology to visit more planets and so on outside of our own planet.
For more information on the Honorable Paul Hellyer, please visit paulhellyerweb.com.
I think they're more advanced technologically and spiritually, maybe socially, all three. So they I think, have much higher moral and spiritual values than we do. And we're sort of at the bottom of the list. We're very primitive. We don't think we're primitive. We think we're sort of tops, but we aren't really. We're a long way down the ladder, and we're just starting to work our way up the ladder to the time when we could claim to join them and be part of their association and to work, in a friendly manner to mutual advantage.
According to Mr. Hellyer, extraterrestrials have been helping us for many years to advance our technology. One important discovery they want to share is zero-point energy.
Yeah, that's the energy that exists everywhere in the cosmos. It is all around us. And it can't be destroyed, it's there. And it can accomplish what we used to think was impossible. And that's, we used to think that you couldn't get a machine that would just keep operating without putting energy into it. Well, that's true, but here's a machine where you can put the energy from the cosmos in it, and it never runs out. You don't have to bring a tanker truck to fill it up with gas or any kind of fuel. You don't need to put in wood, or you don't need to put in coal. Dr. Michael Wolff, who was an American who had worked in S4 in Nevada, said that the Americans working with the extraterrestrials had developed both cold fusion and zero-point energy. That is the only way to go, is to take that energy and use it to replace coal, and oil, and ultimately natural gas as well.
In recent years, Mr. Hellyer explains, extraterrestrials have been visiting Earth more and more frequently. They are concerned because they think our actions could affect the entire galaxy.
As far as the interconnection is concerned, I'm told if we put off an atomic weapon on Earth, it has an effect right across the universe. And the effect is felt in other places right across the universe, and vice versa. These are negative effects, of course. They're disrupting, and that's one of the reasons that the extraterrestrials, especially some of them, are so concerned about us. They started coming in large numbers after the first experimental atomic weapon, warring humans. It's something that has repercussions right across the universe with all of our siblings and relatives and other sentient beings everywhere. And consequently, we have to cut it out and start doing positive things that would work positively and provide the kind of environment that they would want to visit and share with us on their vacations or whatever.
Mr. Hellyer believes that Earth is currently undergoing what he calls a spiritual revolution. For a successful outcome, however, we must realize one important fact. War is obsolete.
I've been around. I've lived through 2 world wars and dozens of other wars. I was Minister of National Defense in Canada for a while. And I know that war is obsolete. It doesn't make any sense for anybody. It's an old idea. The weapons involved have changed over the years, over thousands of years, from clubs to musket loaders to automatic rifles to machine guns and then finally atomic weapons, and now worse. And so it doesn't make any sense because we are going to destroy ourselves. And so I'm saying that is not the way to go. We have got to change, and we have got to start cooperating with other people. We claim that we're a rational species, but we have to prove it. So that is what I'm saying and promoting, is let's start voluntarily doing the right thing. And the right thing would be to try to save our planet and to have a fairer distribution of wealth and to solve the real problems of health, wealth, and education for people all over the world. Every rose that blooms, every lily that blooms, every tree that grows, every river that flows, every mountain that heads for the sky, every ocean, they are all part of God incarnate, in the sense that his particles make up us all. And so, in effect, we are all brothers and sisters. We're all siblings. And we should act that way.
We will now take a moment to thank the Divine for the many wonders in our magnificent cosmos. We'll return after this message. Welcome back as we continue our program, Extraterrestrials Are Real, Interview with the Honorable Paul Hellyer, Part 2 of 2. According to Paul Hellyer, the more advanced planets in our galaxy have formed a galactic federation. Having observed our Earth for thousands of years, they have a message for us.
Because one of the messages that's coming loud and clear from the members of the galaxy, is you are poor stewards of your planet. You're not taking care of it. You're spoiling it. You're wrecking it. And you don't deserve to have it. So if you want to keep it, you've got to change and do things that are right. If we have any concern for our own selves and our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, then we've got to move, make the changes, and do the things that are necessary to keep our planet because we deserve it. It has to start with the individuals. So it has to start from the bottom up, not from the top down. And if it starts at the bottom up, then it can be, as is happening, small groups forming, doing right things, and spreading the word, and making waves. If we could just speed up that process and make it more universal, then wonderful things can happen.
Mr. Hellyer believes that to be good stewards of our Earth, we must treat animals with compassion. This means a widespread adoption of the vegan lifestyle.
I think the way we treat some animals is very, very wrong. We treat them very poorly, and that's wrong. In my own family, I know that the young people are vegetarians, a lot of them. And when I was young, there were none. So we're moving in the right direction there. If you have too many animals like beef cattle, they create problems for the environment. Too much gas released into the environment. So there are connections there. And I think it's true, at least one of the planets in the galaxy is entirely vegetarian. There may be others, but I heard of one where it's entirely vegetarian. And so you can say, well, maybe that's a model to aim for. And we're moving in that direction, so there's something positive that's going on there.
Mr. Hellyer believes that the future of humanity is bright. However, it is important for us to heed the advice from the extraterrestrials.
I think that the final message is we have been told that we are not being good stewards of our planet. We have been warned that we are going the wrong way and that we could destroy ourselves as a species. Listen to what we're hearing. Listen carefully, and then change our ways and pass the information along and create the spiritual atmosphere in which it will be possible to look after our planet, to restore it to what it should be, and to have a planet where everybody tries to get along and treats each other as a brother or sister. In other words, love is the answer. It is the glue that holds the universe together.
For more information on the Honorable Paul Hellyer, please visit paulhellyerweb.com. Many thanks, the Honorable Paul Hellyer, for sharing your thoughts with us. May you be blessed abundantly for your kind generosity. Much loved viewers, thank you for your company today during the concluding episode of Extraterrestrials Are Real, interview with the Honorable Paul Hellyer. Coming up next is The Real Love, Part 2 of 3 on Between Master and Disciples, right after noteworthy news. May all beings soon live in harmony in a compassionate vegan world.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/SS